So so basically, they're in these countries for a reason, and they're looking for something. They're definitely destroying something as they're going along. They're taking relics. They're taking artifacts. They're staying there. You've got catacombs underneath all of these places, or most of these places. You've got things that have been discovered on LiDAR. You've got things that have been discovered. You've got the Bosnian pyramids where the guy's not letting them in. I've seen walkthrough videos of that. Paul Cook did one. And he just told me this. Sky bought his video. Sky bought his video off him. I think it was Sky. And they show you, and this. If you look on the narrative, it says these aren't pyramids. And so what you were saying there, they do that on purpose because they don't want people to think they're pyramids. But
no, they don't.
Bro,
they don't.
I've seen it with my own eyes on a video walking around. They are fucking pyramids. They are pyramids.
Well, you can tell. I mean, they're absolutely huge as well. You know, and it's. I think the thing is, I think they just want the Egyptians to be like the sort of the beginning of it all. You know what I mean? As far back as we can go. This is why we don't get taught about the Sumerians. Yeah.
Is that where they've started from then, Sam? Is that like Egypt is our starting point for these people who are doing this, and we don't want anything else before that? Is that kind of what it is? So they're going to try and eradicate all the other stuff?
The reason being is because a lot to do with Egypt we still don't know because it's very vague. Yeah, and the one problem with the Sumerians is they documented everything. I mean, absolutely everything. They're still finding like little clear receipts. Of grain transactions, and also, I mean, this is how meticulous they were with everything. Yeah, they documented all sorts. They invented writing, invented the school systems, governance, democracy. They say Greeks did, no, they didn't. Sumerians did. Yeah, all of that stemmed from this one civilization, and this is why they're so problematic. Yeah, that and the fact that the stuff that they say in their myths sounds an awful lot like genetic engineering. Sort of UFOs, all sorts of other stuff. Yeah, but my take is that a lot of people say that the Anunnaki were from space and everything else, right? Now, Arthur C. Clarke, one of his most famous quotes is, "Any sufficiently advanced technology will be perceived as magic, by a lower civilization." The Erasans were very advanced. We know that because of Kabardino, Balkaria, and other sites that are around there.
Okay. Oh, I've lost you, Sam. The Sumerian tablets and everything, and how they're documenting how they cause a problem, and how you can cover grains of rice that have been trained, and then you just literally blanked. You blanked. Like it just went.
Well, what I was saying was that a lot of their myths, but now they've been translated. The stuff that they're describing sounds an awful lot like genetic engineering. Sounds an awful lot like nuclear wars. Sounds an awful lot like flying saucers. Flying discs. All this stuff. Now they attribute these to their gods called the Anunnaki. Right now, like I said, there's a famous quote by Arthur C. Clarke where any sufficient high technology or advanced technology will appear to someone lower as magic. It would, right? So the Eratans were very sort of advanced, we know that. Now I think probably this is just again my personal theory, but I think when the remnants of the Eratans met up with the tribes of the Sumerians that were there before they were the Sumerians. They were called the Ubaid, they were called. I think when they met up with them, they either were deliberately fooled by the Eratans into thinking they were gods, or the Eratans, or they mistook the Eratans for gods and couldn't think of them any other way because of the technology they used, or a mixture of the two. I don't know. Right, but I truly believe that the Eratans were the Anunnaki just by the way they describe certain things, and I think they mixed them up with creation myths from the Errata as well. There's certain places, instances, little details here and there that point to it being them being the erratons rather than the actual space aliens or anything like that. Yeah.
You know when you say about the you just said there about the technology, everything to a lower advanced person looks like ancient magic technology. Yeah. Because it would do. I mean, you cover a lot of this in your vids as well, where you're putting it out nice and simple. Not to keep mentioning Paul Cook, but he does exactly the same. He's like, this ain't ancient technology. This is cast and put together here like a jigsaw puzzle. And you do the same. You're like, it's not ancient technology. It's just we were actually better back then. Whoever was here than what we're being told.
Yeah. Well, that's what it is. I mean, like I said, the main things to keep this sort of this information from us is because, one, they want it for themselves, like I said, and two, it keeps us sort of held back.
Dumb.
In a way,
dumbs us down.
Yeah, and we're basically being robbed of our heritage, of our ancient history, our past. I mean, what's the saying? He who controls the past controls the present, and he who controls the present controls the future. Yeah, which is Marcus Aurelius, I think. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you control someone's past, they're not going to know what they can do in the present, and they won't know how far they can, or how far they can get, or what they can become. Yeah, as long as you can keep that past sort of held back, you're fine. And that's one of the things what John D. Rockefeller did. He took over the education system. Not only like people go on about him taking over the big oil and then the pharmaceutical industry, and he did all this, by the way, in league with what's he called, Summit Collins, who started the Collins Elite. That's another thing you should look into. They're really weird. The Picers, the Rothschilds, not everyone else, they took over the pharma industry. And then John D. Rockefeller had this bright idea of taking over the education industry. And he did this through the universities. Started at the universities first and then trickled it down into like younger and younger and younger and younger. And he did this by bribing certain individuals in certain faculties, so like history and science and everything else. Yeah, he'd elevate them to get to the head of the department, and then elevate them to get on the board, and then he'd slowly get another one onto the board and another one onto the board, and then he'd get them heading the board. Yeah, the first one that he got in there is the chairman of the board. He'd rig it, and then from there, everything stems from what John D. Rockefeller wanted and what the regime wanted. Yeah, and then they pass it down to the board members, and they pass it down to the faculty and everything else. And this is how they slowly took over the education. Yeah, the education system, and then they put that into high schools, put that into primary schools, infant schools, and they got it younger and younger and younger and younger and younger. And all they wanted was just drones, just people that could do a job, yeah, and a job that they wanted, and just that job alone. That's all they wanted. So this is, it's training you for work. This is why you start off early in the morning. You've got to ask permission to go for a wee or something like that. You have a break in the morning, have a lunch break, and then an afternoon break. All set out like it would be a work day. Yeah, and then this is why they started getting rid of stuff like the arts, music, anything that's creative, just so you're just following this sort of left brain logical mentality and not thinking out the box. That's the last thing they want, is you thinking out the box, because then that ups your intelligence a bit, because then you're thinking about something that maybe that's doing it this way. You find out it works. Oh, way up. Yeah. And that just elevates you a bit more and a bit more. And that's not what they want. That's not what they want. This is why they're changing everything to IT and business now, because that's the main industry. Yeah. It was all factory work and engineering before that. And now it's slowly changed over to call centres or IT industry, which is what they're trying to get more people into. Yeah. And this is why they're structuring a lot of the lessons into more maths, more physics. Yeah. More. Well, I say physics, it's their version of physics. Yeah. It's the only thing that's probably right. Yeah, the only two things, should I say, kind of, is English and maths. Yeah, and all your sciences and whatnot, they suppress loads, and I mean loads. There's stuff that they can't tell you, because it's like physics at the minute, right? Physics at the moment is in a crisis because it's collapsing. Yeah, this James Webb telescope is screwing everything up because it's disproving all the theories. Yeah, disproving everything. They had a scare the other week because they thought someone said it's disproving the Big Bang, right? So then they had to cover that up, saying, "Oh no, it didn't. No, it didn't. It didn't do this. It didn't do that." Yeah. But there's been physicists for the past 10 years just saying no, there wasn't a Big Bang. Yeah. There's one guy that ties it to black holes. Yeah. A Brazilian guy. I've forgotten his name. And his theory is that basically in a black hole is one universe, right? And that'll lead you. So our universe is inside a black hole of another universe, and another universe that's got a black hole, and they all stem from this one black hole.
Wow, that's a different theory.
Yeah, exactly. So he said the Big Bang part of things is likely when the star dies. Yeah, well, sometimes it's a galaxy that dies that creates a supermassive black hole. Yeah, and that when it punches through reality, it actually creates a new universe. Yeah. So it's like a big suck.
Why?
Yeah, and that creates a new universe and a new one and a new one, and it carries on like that. And I thought, well, yeah, that sounds quite plausible. You know what I mean? But he's been suppressed for ages, but now they're wheeling him out again, saying, well, he might have been right, sort of. Yeah, and that, because
interesting.
Again, a lot of the physics doesn't work. Yeah, there's a lot to do with electromagnetism as well. I think Emmanuel Velikovsky, who sort of who wrote a book called Worlds in Collision. I don't know if you've read it.
No.
And he has, he has a lot of theories about the way that the solar system started off, the way that Earth started off. Saturn was once a sun, yeah, and then it got sort of like Venus was a comet that was passing by Saturn. We were actually part of the Saturn system at one point, the Earth, Mars and Titan, yeah, and we were sort of inside. It was a brown dwarf, supposedly, and inside a brown dwarf's corona, yeah, it's a lot cooler than it would be inside the sun's corona. Our sun isn't what we think it is at all, yeah. It's not a bubbling mass of fusion. It's more akin to a capacitor, yeah, where it draws in energy from the 0 point and then it spreads it out and it emits it out across the solar system. Saturn was one of those, was basically a brown dwarf version of that, a smaller, sort of less dense and cooler version of it. And we were inside it. And there's a lot of creation myths and legends and all sorts of other stuff from people like the Zulus and the Aboriginals and all sorts. They say we were under a permanently red sky, yeah? And if we were inside this corona, it would be permanently red, yeah? It would also generate a lot of water, yeah, in the atmosphere, so it's permanently raining, which is another thing that they say a lot, yeah?
Interesting, Sam, that's interesting.
All of a sudden, this comet, which was Venus, yeah, got sort of sucked in by Saturn's gravity and started ripping like most of Saturn away, which started creating its rings, dislodged us away from it, yeah, away from Saturn and put us where we are now, yeah. It also started to create Jupiter from this material, yeah, and from some material from Venus. Mars ended up where it was, yeah, from being dislodged. There was also another planet, I forgot to say, that was inside that area that was blown up that created the asteroid belt, yeah. And where Venus settled, yeah, it was just knocked into there after that collision with the what is now the asteroid belt. Yeah, the planet was now the asteroid belt. The rings are remnants of all that, yeah. Now, if you look at Venus, the actual ground is constantly being reshaped all the time. Yeah, it's very young, sort of geologically. And Velikovsky thought that this was probably why. It's partly because of this collision, and partly because of the gravitational and electrical sort of discharges that are going on around the actual planet itself. I mean, there's lightning storms all over it all the time. It's very sort of electrically active, is Venus, and its entire landscape is just completely just washed over, like constantly all the time. Volcanoes going off, everything, and this is because it's still very sort of very electrically active. Yeah, it's got a lot of plasma in it. It's got a lot of electromagnetism. The atmosphere is generated from all this plasma that's in it, and this is from its interactions with the sun and us. And I mean, it's just a fascinating book. It goes into so much detail about a lot of the ancient myths. Yeah, that it's just brilliant, really good. That's a very old
And he
book.
does it from an astronomical sense. He's looking at where the myths come from an astronomical sense, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, cosmological more than anything else. But
cosmological.
It was a firm believer that the sun was actually, like I said, was actually a capacitor. And now there's a lot of things that science can't explain, like the sunspots. Why are they dark? Yeah, if they did what science says, which was they basically open holes straight through what will be the sun's sort of outer sort of mantle kind of area, and then into the inner core and into the core. Yeah, it should be bright white. Yeah, in those areas, but it's not. Right, the jet black. Right. Also, I think it was about 10 years ago, maybe 8 or 10 years ago. You might have remembered it. There was loads of pictures going about of the sun, and half of it was black. Yeah, half of it was black, and that was because it blew its outer shell off, right? And it was just little specks of sort of light bits all over the place, but most of it was jet black. I mean, absolutely jet black, and like it basically blown off. Like I said, half of its outer shell off. Luckily, it missed us by God knows how much. But I mean, the theory is that it's essentially kind of hollow in the middle. Yeah, it's just full of a lot of sort of plasma and electrical activity, and this is what it's drawing this in from what they call the 0 point. Yeah, which is like sort of an area of reality between realities that's full of energy. Yeah, this is how you open doorways, how you open dimensional doorways, supposedly by tapping into the 0 point energy. Yeah. This is stuff that CERN's confirmed. You know what I mean? Like lots of times. It's sort of what they're looking for there. It is. I mean, they said themselves, I forgot the guy's name, the scientific director, and he turned around and said, "We're going to open doorways, and then we're going to see what comes out." Sorry, you're going to do what? We're going to open doorways and see what comes out. We're like, okay, right. Are you serious? Yeah. And then someone had to come out and say, no, he's just having a laugh, like, you know, and trying to walk it back. And it's like, you hear about all the stuff that's happened there, yeah. The supposedly mock satanic ritual that happened outside, yeah, in front of Shiva's statue. The weird opening ceremony video that they did called Symmetry, yeah, that's got the guy in it all the way through is doing Shiva's Dance of Destruction all the way through it, yeah, in different sort of guises, yeah. I mean, it's really strange. And then you get all the CERN scientists that have died over the past, since I think 1989 to I think roughly around 2006, there was 40 scientists that have died, yeah, CERN scientists that have died, physicists, all in strange ways, yeah. All of them supposedly suicide, but it's suicide, the kind of suicide where you shoot yourself in the back of the head twice, put yourself in the back seat of your car, drive into a tree and set yourself on fire, yeah, that kind of suicide, yeah. And it's like, they're having a laugh, you know. But all of these have come out, you know, they've done some absolutely breakthrough work, and then all of a sudden, gone. Yeah, they've been bumped off, and this has happened.
I've got a question for you. Yeah. I've got a question for you, and I can say this on this one because this will only be on Telegram. Do they, by any chance, know the Clintons, the scientists?
Well, it's funny you should say that. I mean, they must use the same guy with the same MO, because there's a lot of similarities. I mean, that guy, right? He must be the most useless sort of hitman you can ever find. Every time it's supposed to look like an accident, it gets ruled an accident, even though the guy's hung himself from a tree. Say for instance, like that last Clinton lawyer, yeah, who hung himself from a tree at the end of that golf course and shot himself in the chest. But you see, so how did he hang himself from a tree and then shoot himself in the chest? He couldn't, or did he shoot himself in the chest and then hang himself? Right, but it's ruled a suicide. Yeah. It can't really, it don't make sense, yeah? I mean, the gun was found miles away, yeah? There's tons of them, and it's like,
it's strange, isn't it? It's strange.
How are they getting away with it? It's just, I mean, they're a pair. They're a right pair, them two, they really are, Clintons. I mean, his brother was killed off because he got caught in the middle of a cocaine deal. And one of the things that is noted in his, I can't remember if it's his confession or a statement that he made, that Bill snorts cocaine like a Hoover. Yeah, that's what he said, right? And then not long after he was killed. Yeah, you've got them two kids that were stumbled across this field where it's reported that like he was governor of Arkansas for ages. Like a lot of people know that, and it was also sort of well in with the CIA as well. Now the CIA used to run cocaine into the US, yeah, and heroin and everything else, and then sell it off to make money for all their operations, yeah, so they could keep it off the books. Now Bill Clinton was sort of organising the flights and getting all the drops to be dropped in this certain area of Arkansas, and these two lads stumbled across it supposedly, and they were found about a mile away from where it were, with the hands tied behind the back, led on train tracks, right? Both dead, obviously, but that was ruled a suicide, right? But they got the hands tied behind the back, right? They're led on train tracks. They almost sort of like one of them, I think, did get run over by the train, right? So they weren't able to sort of do much for that body, yeah. But the other one, it was obviously smothered in some way, yeah. And like I said, his hands were bound. So why did he bind his hands before he committed suicide or led on the tracks? Plus, he didn't get hit by the train, yeah. So it's like, right, that's
preposterous, mate. It's preposterous.
Yeah. I mean, they are, like you said, they're blatant, and they get away with it. They get away with it all the time. Them and Obama, like you know about Andrew Breitbart, don't you? Yeah.
No.
You know Breitbart News. He founded Breitbart News, yep. Andrew Breitbart, and he wrote a book, and it was all about Obama. And he said, I've got, like, it was about 2 weeks before he died, and he says, I've got an absolute bombshell in this book. You're not going to believe it. Yeah, it's gonna absolutely blow Obama out of the water, And then next thing you know, he's dead. Yeah, and his book never gets published. Yeah, and it's like, what did he know? What did he know about the Obamas? Yeah. Then you get Joan Rivers going on about Michelle Obama being a man. She says, yeah, my Michelle is a tranny. Yeah. A week later, boom, she's dead. Right. There's something about the Obamas, about the Clintons. It's all very sort of what's going on there. What's going, they're so involved with all sorts of stuff. But then there's a lot of disinformation going on around them as well. Yeah, which is another reason why you can tell there's something there to look at, because of the amount of disinformation there is about the actual information. Yeah, it's just to cloud that information. And this is something, right? With the system, I have a saying, right? And it rings true with everything they do, right? The system is founded on 95% truth, 10% lies, right? Now, when you first hear that statement, it won't sink in for the first time. But then you go, hang on, 95, yeah, 10, the two don't go together, right? But you're not understanding the concept, right? The concept in and of itself is a lie, first of all, right? It's all based around how much truth you can get away with putting into it and how much lies you can get away with putting it over on top. Yeah, so that's why there's 10% lies, 95% truth. There's always some truth, yeah, in everything they do. Yeah, sometimes they'll even use the whole truth, yeah, but they'll give segments to 3 of their ops, yeah, their controlled ops, and they'll get them all fighting over each one of those segments, and they'll all start discrediting each other, right? And that discredits the whole. Then, yeah, or like I said, they'll give you so much, right, so much of the truth, and then smatter the rest in a load of lies, yeah. And they do this a lot, and you see it everywhere in all the companies, in all the banks, in all the politics, in all the religion, everything. It's all lots of truth, tiny bit of lies. And the reason why they use lots of truth is because that's what draws you in. Yeah, that's what you can verify. If you don't have that certain sort of ratio of truth lies, yeah, it will never sound plausible. But you'll always find that one person will have one bit, one person will have another bit and another bit, and someone else will have another, and it's trying to work out which bits go where. Ignore all the infighting and all the people turning around and saying, well, this guy that I listened to said that this guy over here can't be trusted. Ignore all that bullshit. Yeah, that's not what you're here for. Yeah, you're here to learn and piece things together. And you can only do that by listening to everybody, even some Q stuff, right? Sometimes you get that right. Well, they did, right? Because most of it were based off the Clinton emails. Yeah. Now they're sort of branching out into other fields and completely destroying it. Yeah. But their research, I mean, some of their researchers are phenomenal. Yeah, the people that actually research, the Q stuff, and they go into just immense detail about some of the families that they mentioned. Yeah, the guys who run Q don't know shit. I know that for a fact. Yeah, they've stolen stuff off people like Ryan Dawson, who the Q map that they had, they stole from him. It was his XT map. Yeah, there's all sorts. The Q researchers themselves, they'll go into so much detail about a particular sort of Q post, and then next thing you know, the guys who are running Q have posted it, saying the exact same thing that these researchers have done, and they think, oh, I'm close to Q. Yeah, I've got it right. Oh, you dickhead, they nicked it from you. You know what I mean? It's
Sam, you're right, man. Sam, yeah. I've got people who, I've read the Q post, I've read some of them, stuff like I've read most of them actually, and I've got people who look at the Q post, research them, but let me tell you what else they're great at, researching other stuff. I've got a group of people who I met because they were, dissecting the Q post and everything, and now, do you know what they're doing now? They send me information like you don't believe. It's crazy. I mean, well, you'd believe it because you know what it's like. They're sending me financial stuff, things that are going on, all the things I'm interested in and scanning myself. These guys are like, Matty, this will be interesting for you. This has been interesting. These guys are heavy researchers.
Well,
they really are.
I mean, right. This is what I mean. They're extremely talented, some of them. They really are. I mean, really, really good researchers. It's just that they've got that... I wouldn't call it stigma. I'll call it it's a handicap, yeah, of Q. One, because the Q banner that they put on every video that they bring out, yeah, immediately that just gets ignored by 90% of the normal public, yeah. The people that aren't really researching, yeah, and as soon as they see a Q banner, they just think it's a load of nutters, yeah. And two, they angle it too much into the Q narrative, yeah. Or they'll try and link it into sort of something that's to do with Q, yeah. And it's that sort of, it's almost a religious kind of thing about it, which is the one thing that's dangerous, yeah. It's got a very cult-like mentality. There's enforcers that act like attack dogs when people are saying, well, what about this? That doesn't sound right to me, blah, blah, blah. And they get proper sort of shot down, attacked, and shunned a lot of the time, ostracized, or the way that the chant, where we go on, we go all. Yeah, if you look at the key stages of a cult, yeah, and then you look at the way the Q movement has evolved and the way it is now, it's just exactly the same. Yeah, it has become a sort of pseudo religion in and of itself. And then there's all the bonkers bullshit, like Robert Kennedy Jr. like being alive, you know what I mean? JFK's son, it's like, no, he died in the plane.
That's not actually, that wasn't Q or the main researchers, though, was it?
No,
actually, this people who were springing off it and trying to get famous off it, and you're right, though. You're right. I mean, what I do like about Q is it said do your own research, and right to stop. And those that have done that, you see those that have done that, and I'm not just saying this. They're the people that send me information. These are the people that still keep an eye on Q, still looking if anything comes out, but they're way on their own path now, researching government corruption, this, that, everything.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you look at the way it started out, the way I've sort of whittled it down is there was a guy called I don't know if you've heard of an ARG, an online sort of puzzle game called Cicada 3301, right? It's a sort of alternate reality game, basically. It had stenography and pictures and all sorts of other stuff and loads of puzzles that you had to work out. And this guy, Microchip, he was called, that was his handle anyway, he was a hacker. And he invented that ARG, and it was just absolutely mind-blowing, fantastic stuff. And supposedly he got involved with a guy called Thomas Schoenberger. Now, Schoenberger was another ARG creator. He also supposedly had links with the CIA, but we can't really confirm that. Yeah. Now, he set up Q after he got the Clinton emails as another ARG initially. Yeah. And all of a sudden, people started believing it was true because his source material was a bit too real. Yeah. He started losing control of it. Started getting a bit scared because people were like really just sort of hounding him because he was one of the only people, doing sort of Q deciphering sort of streams. Yeah, he was doing them primarily on Discord. And so I think it was about 3 or 4 months into all this Q thing started, when he sort of really lost his bottle, and he accidentally recorded himself, before a live stream, putting a Q post up onto, it was 4chan back then, he put in all the passwords, all the ID codes, everything else, and then started typing it all out, right? And then started his live stream as normal, knowing that there was about 5 or 6 people that were watching him, all watching him do that, Now, he thought that they would go out and tell everyone that Q was fake, except they had other plans. And that's when you started seeing Q channels being monetized and everything else. It's because of those people that took it over from microchip. Now, from what I can work out, one of those people was probably Dave Hayes, which is paramedic, another one was a guy that goes by the name of Pamphlet, that was probably involved in it as well. There was a lady whose name escapes me every time I blooming try and think of it. And another guy who had a channel called Maga Federation. Now, 2 of them left, and then others started joining in after that, started getting involved with it. I have a suspicion that one of them was David Wilcock. I have a suspicion as well that another one was Jerome Corsi, because he had way too much sort of information. When he went to Alex Jones and said, "I'll find out who Q is for you," he already knew, and he knew this because of paramedics' dodgy tax sort of dealings. He was running basically all the money that we were making from all these channels. He was running it through his church, because he's got his own sort of religion kind of sort of church kind of thing. So he's on he's tax exempt, for his church. So he's running all their money through his church. This started getting into the millions when Corsi and everyone else started getting in. And this is how I think Corsi found out who he was. You can see right from microchip to the paramedic, the old crew, to the new crew where they had Corsi and they had, like I said, likely David Wilcock, I think, joining in. The narrative sort of changed. The writing got better. The feel of the Q character actually started sounding more like someone that was actually part of the Secret Service or something like that. They got that sort of element from it from Corsi. Corsi he was blackballed in the US from doing journalism because of his ties to Mossad. He was writing up stories in the American press for Mossad and sweetening them up for them. So you could tell where this sort of shadowy sort of government type sort of persona came from in the way that Q wrote. So it was running all their money through that, and then started making more and more and more and more and more money. Then there was that mass shooting that got blamed on Q. All of a sudden, Trump's like, right, we need to find out who's behind this and stop it. You know what I mean? Because it's causing loads of shit. And that's when Dave Hayes suddenly gets sort of on the IRS's radar. For all this money that's running through his church. And all of a sudden, the night before, right, he ran away to Tijuana. He goes on this guy called Bill Mitchell, his radio, his like YouTube channel, He starts dancing and raving about this MAGA Federation guy that left ages before. All because this MAGA Federation guy says, I know everything about this guy, I know what he's been up to, I can tell you everything. I can tell you what's going on with you, blah, 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 all this, like, So Dave Hayes was doing his nut, absolutely doing his nut, right? Next thing you know, after he's had this major, just absolute rant on Bill Mitchell's show, right? All of a sudden, Q is coming up saying, "You need to dox this guy. This is the guy, right? This guy has only got barely even 1,000 subs, right, on his channel. Why is Q, right, supposedly part of the government, bothered about this guy with barely even 1,000 subs? There's barely even a sniff on the global scheme. Why is he bothered about this one guy, right? The day after, boom, paramedic, he does a periscope on Twitter. He's there like saying, I have to go to Tijuana for a while. There's someone after me, blah, 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 blah. And then it started coming out about all his tax evasion. He owed like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to the IRS. And it's like, right, now we know what's going on. And that's when everyone left, And then Q went dark for a bit and then came back. And I think that's when Dave started getting different sort of crews together to try and keep this Q narrative going, you know what I mean? And then, of course, Trump happened and he lost in 2020. He started to really collapse then, and he's had to get other people involved who were less than sort of organised or smart, yeah, to say the least. And they've really pushed hard on the just the really bonkers side of things, yeah. Which of course all these devout Q followers will believe to the hilt because everything else has been true. So why can't this bonkers shit be true? You know what I mean? It's like, oh God. But you try and explain that to them, and it's like John Mack, yeah. He was the head of Harvard psychology department. He went into UFOs. He went into abductions, alien abductions, to try and disprove them. Anyway, he ended up realizing that he couldn't, and they were a real thing, and blah 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 blah. But he said when he was trying to convince his friends, yeah, he said there's a certain point that people get to where when they have a belief in something, a true belief, it becomes part of who they are, yeah, and it gets ingrained into the soul, and it becomes what they believe politically, emotionally, psychologically, religiously, financially, everything. Just everything in their being is tied into this belief. And he said if you get something or find something that is so earth-shattering that it destroys that belief, yeah, like evidence of it, yeah, it can destroy a person's mind, literally destroy a person's mind. He said it could be irreparable. He said, so the brain, this is one thing he found with a lot of people, he said the brain, to stop that from happening, it has its own defense mechanism where it'll literally make something invisible in front of your eyes, yeah, literally, right? So say like you believe that that man over there is green, that one's blue, right? But it turns out that man's really orange, yeah? And the guy's got a thing that says it's orange, but you can see him as blue, and you will always see him as blue, yeah? Or you won't see him at all. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like it's weird how the mind works. And he said this is something he would run into a lot. It's some of the abductees have had used against them to their advantage, because that having something like that happen to you is so paradigm shifting and so just ultimately destroying, because you believe that you believe that everything's like works in our realm of physics, yeah, but obviously it doesn't, yeah. It's your mind's way of stopping that, from happening. Same with flat earthers. Flat earthers, if you took them in a rocket, yeah, up into the sky, well, up into space, yeah, and showed them the Earth and it was a globe, you won't see it. You'd see flat. Yeah, it's just the way.
That's so interesting, Sam.
Yeah,
I wonder if it's the same for us. I wonder if it's the same for us on some things. Just to be a bit advocate here. Do we see things and
everyone is? Everyone. There's a certain. Like everyone says they're open-minded, yeah, to a degree, and that's true, yeah. But there's a point where you won't cross. Yeah, everyone has a limit. Yeah, you can build yourself past that limit, yeah, but you've got to do it in a slow, drip feed way. This is why I'm going to say when you're waking people up or trying to wake people up, you've got to drip feed it to them, yeah. Nudge them into a direction that will make them go and look for it themselves. You can't just throw everything on them, yeah, because they'll just shut off. Yeah, they'll just shut off and they'll either stop speaking to you or they won't ask you anything about that again, or they just won't listen. Yeah, but if you drip feed it, yeah, just drip feed it slowly and say, look, go and look at this, or give them something that will make them think that can't be right, and we'll go and have a look. Yeah, we'll have to go and have a look. One of the things I use, right, is with 9/11, right. This is a good one. Yeah, 9/11. Yeah, but both towers, yeah, Tower 1 and Tower 2, right. There was 1,500 toilets, yeah, between them. Right, all of them made of porcelain. Right, every single person that was cleaning up on 9/11 said they didn't find one shattered toilet, one shard of porcelain anywhere. Where'd all the porcelain go?
That's a good point, Sam.
Porcelain only burns at 2,000. Well, it can withstand 2,000 degrees of heat. Yeah, which is why they use it a lot in furnaces. Yeah, or in certain types of armor to sort of take the heat from a it's called, I forget what it's called now. It's basically a shell from a tank, and once it pierces the armor, it spreads molten metal, yeah, into the tank. So they use ceramic, yeah, to stop that from happening. It's part of their armor. Chobham armor, it's called, yeah. So obviously that porcelain that was in the Twin Towers, yeah, shouldn't have burnt up. So where's it gone? Yeah, it was vaporized, obviously, because there's nothing there. So where did the porcelain go? And that completely destroys the plane narrative straight away, yeah? Because those planes, right, jet fuel, yeah, burns at 2,000 degrees C, right? But it only does that in a flash of a pan. It burns away in an instant, pretty much, yeah? So if you get light a fuel, yeah, or light a gas. Put a flame to light a gas, just pour some into an ashtray, put a flame on it, yeah, it'll go poof, it'll explode like that. That's exactly the same what air fuel does, yeah. So all this about those airplanes, they burnt at this, no, they didn't. No, they didn't, right? They didn't at all, because they did that for about 2 seconds. All the rest of it was just usual house fire stuff, yeah? Wood, fabric, yeah? Plastics, that was it, right? You could tell that from the smoke that was coming out and everything, yeah? So that wasn't hot enough to burn these toilets away. So what got rid of the toilets? Where's all the toilets gone? Oh, and that, as soon as you say that to someone, right, they'll instantly sit there, right? If you don't know anything about it, they'll go, nah, that can't be right. Go and have a look. And instantly, whilst they're trying to search that for the toilets, right, on their little trail to go and find the toilets, they'll be finding out loads of stuff about why the planes couldn't have done it, everything else, right? You may never even find the information on the toilets, right? The reason being is because I made it up, right? Right?
Brilliant.
But it gets them looking, right? And that's what you want. Right? You want them to be searching, and as they're searching for this going, right with the toilets, they'll find out why jet fuel couldn't have maintained the fires in there. Why those fires themselves wouldn't have caused them to collapse. Then they'll start finding out about Building 7. Then they'll start finding out about Building 6. And when you find out about World Trade Center 6, right, it just blows everything out of the water, because that was on fire before the planes hit.
Awesome.
Right?
Superb.
Right?
Superb.
So,
that is a Sam Fisher way to get people to plant the seeds, man. That is perfect.
That's as long as you can get them just looking in that direction and searching, you'll find out all the stuff you want them to find out themselves. And that way they'll retain it. Yeah. They'll retain it more because they're learning. Yeah. And they're looking for it. Yeah. They're following their own sort of path.
They're discovering it themselves, aren't they?
Exactly.
Their brain's discovering it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not you giving them sort of points here and points there and points here. Yeah. I mean, every now and again you can give them a nudge somewhere, but only a nudge. Yeah. Don't just outright tell people things. Yeah. One, because
don't push them.
Yeah, exactly. One, because it gives them information overload. Two, they might not really just want to know the information, you know. Yeah. Some people don't. Yeah. They'd rather stay in the dark. And three, they learn at their own pace, which means, like I said, they'll retain it more. Yeah. So you just need something that will get them into that direction and get them looking. Yeah. And then
it's like the proverb, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like the proverb, be the sun rather than the wind, to get the guy to take his coat off. Definitely. Yeah. Sam, I'm going to say this, right? I'm going to steer this conversation now towards the last topic that I want to discuss while I've still got your time. But everyone should really pay attention to what you just said there about the planting the seeds, because guess what? That's what mainstream media were doing for years. That's how they control that. It's a marketing campaign. It's constructed on purpose the way they do it. Yeah. So, and then they hit you with which is the next subject we're going to, the nonsense, the COVID, the vaccines, and that becomes a big, massive sales campaign and marketing campaign. Yeah. And for those that have not been eating seeds, it's overwhelming. And for those that have been taking seeds for a little while, it's like, oh, we can take a little look here. But people, before we go on to this next subject, which is going to be the vaccines, Pfizer and everything, what Sam just said there, perfect, absolutely perfect. Plant the seed for people, let them discover it themselves. And kudos for that, Sam. That is brilliant advice, mate. Brilliant suggestion. Absolutely. So, vaccines, Pfizer. Hit us with your rhythm stick, Sam. Let's go.
Right. Well, God, what can you talk about with Pfizer apart from everything?
What do you think's coming in the next 2 months with this data, the next 2-3 months, Sam? Do you think there's going to be huge bombshells, or do you think it's going to get washed under the carpet?
This is the thing. There's not really been that much that's been bombshell-like, apart from a couple of bits here and there. Like it was the thing about the RSV, which is I forgot what the R stands for, but syncytial virus, which is basically a lower lung disease. Yeah, and they've been attributing that to. They've been basically telling healthcare staff to diagnose that as COVID. Yeah, even though COVID's an upper respiratory disease, yeah, they've been getting them to do that, and with pregnant women, and then phoning pregnant women up and trying to get them to take a Pfizer shot that isn't even not even been tested on them. You say, yeah, so they're using them as guinea pigs. That's what they're trying to do. But they're ringing them up and harassing them, trying to get them to take a shot. Yeah, that was in not last month, but the months before. They've started putting them into files now that I can't open. I've noticed as well. Yeah, there's a certain file type that when you try and open it, it says you need this certain plugin. You go and try and get the certain plugin, and it's part of the healthcare sort of thing, but attached to another thing and another thing and another thing. And it's like, well, how do I get that? How do I get that? So they've started putting a lot of their information into that now. Yeah, into that file format, which is it's the form of Excel, and then you get the other things like the figures that they botched. The best one was there was a lot of data that was from the testing centres, yeah, and there was figures on sort of adverse events that they had with them, and side effects and stuff like that, and they were listing them all. But there was like they had them listed from I think it was 1001, yeah, all the way up to 2741, something like that, right? So they were all numbered, right, one after the other, all the way like that, and they all had their own sort of designated area, like where they were. One was in Britain, one was in Brazil, I think the other one was in the US. There was four actually. Anyway, can't remember two of the countries, but one of them was the UK, one of them were Brazil, and there were two other countries, and they were all identified, and all the doctors were identified, and everything else. Obviously, the patients weren't; their anonymity was kept. But then all of a sudden, there's this one testing centre, right? This one testing site that had, I think it was 44,000, yeah, 44,000 sort of test subjects in it, right? All of them with unusually and coincidentally, right, positive results that sort of swayed the results that they were getting from the other ones that were really, really bad into a more favourable light, right? 4444, right? That's what they were listed at. No country, right? No real doctors, yeah, but lots and lots of favourable results, right? And it turned out that was fake. That was a fake testing centre, right? They'd used that, yeah, to basically balance the rest of the results in every other area. Just so they could get it past emergency use, yeah. Like I think that was the sole reason why they did it. It was a whole fake testing centre, right? I mean, that was I think it was either in the second or third one that they did that, and then every single other one has been quite sort of poor in the information that they give you. You know what I mean? It's been very sort of mundane, not really that sort of enlightening about anything really. Yeah, and I think that's partly because they've been appealing the court's decision. Yeah, to basically make them release it. They've been trying to appeal it at the moment. I don't know whether they've been successful yet or whether it's still going through. But I think that's why they're trickling out all the crap, yeah, that no one really wants and doesn't really sort of give too much away about them, yeah, just all this time so they can sort of run out the clock, if you get what I mean. Yeah.
That might bite them in the bum, Sam. That might bite them in the bum because if their appeal doesn't go ahead and it gets knocked away, they'll have to release everything all at once with a big bang. Yeah.
I mean, it's a huge gamble, but I can sort of see why they're doing it. Yeah, it's the only way that makes sense. Yeah, to me, why they would be doing that, because we know there's information in there that we still haven't got yet, but has been mentioned in other people's sort of like the whistleblowers' testimony and everything else, right? And they're being very cautious about releasing any of that. Yeah, plus there's stuff in the contracts as well where they've sort of wangled it in such a way that that basically they can't be at fault in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, if the country goes into default, which is very easy for those countries to do, yeah, then they've got assets that they could take. Yeah, certain assets. Military barracks is one of them. Weirdly, yeah, take control of the healthcare system. Right, is another one. I mean, that was what we found out through the Albanian one. The European Union one's almost the same. Yeah. There's one thing though with the EMA, they did their own sort of safety study on them, right? And they tried covering it up, and someone linked it, and it basically said that there's a reason why so many people get so many adverse events, right? And there's over like at least 100,000 of them there, if that, you know what I mean, all different, right? And there's a reason why they're all different, and this is because of the way that the mRNA reacts with the body, right? It's also the way that the mRNA process, the actual manufacturing processes, that makes every single strand of mRNA unstable, right? So each one will have its own mutation, right? And it'll have a further mutation when it makes contact with the body, and then it gets reverse transcribed into your liver and becomes part of your DNA. Yeah. Now they knew this would happen, right? In 2020, I've got minutes from a meeting on my page, right? It's somewhere in America. It's I forgot what medical school it is, but it's minutes from a meeting where they're discussing the mRNA becoming reverse transcribed into your DNA, and they've known about that because it happened in mice, when they were doing test studies on it, and this was in 2016 when they were doing these test studies. So they knew.
Did you say 2016 they were doing these test studies? What?
Yeah. This is when they knew, right, that the mRNA tech would get to reverse transcribed into your DNA. This is something that Pfizer, Moderna, who own the patent, they own the patent to the mRNA technology. This is something they knew from their own test. Trying to get the patent for it. And they were denied a patent every time. The last patent that they got denied, was in January 2020, right? Which incidentally is also when the US government, and it was some department of the US government under Trump, right? Bought the controlling share in Moderna. Everyone's saying it's the guy who owns Spotify, or there's another one. No, it's the US government, right? The US government had negotiations to buy Moderna since 2016, right? And they finally went through in 2020. Why did it take 4 years, right? This is something with like no one's ever been able to work out. Why did it take 4 years to get this deal through, right? But it did go through. Moderna actually make more, right? Because Pfizer uses Moderna's technology, right?
Yeah.
Pfizer have to pay Moderna royalties, right? Moderna actually makes more money, right, from the royalties that they get off Pfizer for the technology that they use than they do if they had to make their own vaccine. It costs more to manufacture it and distribute it. This is why having 2 mRNA vaccines, in circulation wasn't sort of wasn't productive and wasn't profitable. So they just shout down the Moderna ones, even though the Moderna one uses the exact same technology, right? It's a Pfizer one. You shoot down the Moderna one, cause a load of kerfuffle and get people to stop taking the Moderna, so they'll start taking the Pfizer, and that starts generating more and more money. They get a monopoly on the mRNA. Pfizer wins, Moderna wins, and so does the US government. And this is why they're pushing the mRNA ones so hard in America, because it makes the US government billions, billions. The US government isn't broke, no matter how much people want to say so. They are not broke. They are stockpiling money, by the bucket load, and it's go on, well, thumbs back. It's they're making vast amounts of money. Them, Pfizer and Moderna, I mean, this is why the lawsuit is going on at the minute, right? Where Moderna's kicking off with Pfizer, about them using their technology. Like, of course they were using their technology. They were getting royalties, right? But they're all kicking off about it now, right? And I think it's because up a little bit, you know what I mean? Or they're not giving them enough of a cut. But there's a big battle going on between them at the moment. It
could be, Sam. It could be a ruse or a cover for exactly what you've said there. It could be like, well, we didn't want them to do that. We took them to court for our technology. At the meanwhile, but over there, our bank accounts are getting fatter every minute. So it could be some kind of ruse to cover them, possibly.
There's all sorts of stuff. I think as well. Another thing is that because of the very sort of critical tie for Pfizer to Moderna through the actual technology that they're using. And with all this coming out, it could actually be Pfizer trying to maybe cut ties with them to stop them from getting sued as badly or paint themselves out as a victim. I don't know. Maybe.
Good point.
you could turn around and say, well, we didn't know. We just took this technology from them, and they said it was sound. Yeah, and then that throw Moderna into the fire. Maybe I don't know. There's something definitely very strange going on. Very strange going on.
That's the thing that you mentioned there as well, where you said it could be Pfizer saying to the other one, or we took their technology on their word. That could be a precipice, or getting ready, preparing for potential fallout, because as we all think, this vaccine's not good, man. Do you know what I mean? So
there's too much coming out of it now. There's too much coming out about it now, and there's not just the adverse events and all the people that are getting, really injured. And I think the last stat I heard was it was 1 in 800 now, like just getting a serious adverse effects of it, like, which is just ridiculous. Yeah. And this is just getting worse and worse with more and more boosters that they're sort of pushing out on people. They're still advising people to get the boosters, even though they're at the same time, right, turning around and saying, but there's all this that's happening with them and all this that's happening with them. This is the mainstream, the peddling two stories at the same time to cause confusion, yeah? When you cause confusion in a person's mind, the first thing you're going to go to is the one with more authority, the one that's more... it seems like they're talking, know what they're talking about more, yeah, basically. And a lot of the time, it's a man in a white coat that they trust more than anything else, yeah. So it's a psychological way of getting them to do that. And you can see them doing this all the way through, through the lockdowns, through the entire pandemic, where they'll feed us information and we'll start spreading it out. You know what I mean? And then they'll feed everyone else a completely sort of contradictory piece of information from the mainstream, and they'll be trying to, like I said, create confusion and draw people away from us that have got the right information 90% of the time, yeah. So those are just feeding them a load of rubbish, yeah, for obvious reasons, yeah. They just want them jabbed and making loads of money. It's the psychological gains in this have just been amazing. It's
been the biggest sales, marketing, promotion, psychological thing I've ever seen, and I've worked in some big companies, man, and it's been huge. But Sam, that is an hour of uncensored content, my friend. Can you believe that, bro? But it's full of info. So if you're watching this now, when this is released, please do follow Sam Fisher. I'm going to put all the links up there as well. And thank you so much, Sam. Thank you, as always.
Welcome, mate. No worries. All right. Cheers.